Hello everyone. In today's video, I'll be looking at episode 15 of What If Civilization Started Over. And in the last episode, saw a lot happen, like the Americas being explored, and we saw the start of a huge war. So Mongolia wanted access to the Americas, and they thought if they took out China and Korea, they would be able to colonize the Americas without any resistance, as they could just go down here to the Americas. So the Mongols declared war on the uh, X Alliance. I forgot what this shape's called. So yeah, they're at war now. The Mongols, of course, did a surprise invasion. So they'll be doing well at first. They take a major city away from the Koreans. Now the Chinese and the Koreans are top 10 powers, but Mongols are the second strongest country in the world. And at this point, they're the first, so they're the strongest country in the world. Don't know why I said second. The Mongols, they have unlimited manpower and a very secretive unit that I won't talk about yet. And the Mongols just pushing down the Korean peninsula. And when they get to this major city, they're officially in the Korean peninsula. Well, what they class as the Korean peninsula. The Mongols will move out from this major city into China, and what China didn't expect is the Mongols will invade from their newly acquired land. What China was not expecting this at all. Korea was kind of expecting it, but not much. But China didn't even think the Mongols would invade them. So China is very unprepared, and they lose a ton of major cities, and the Shaodong Peninsula gets split off from the rest of the country. So China's not doing well. Over to Korea. Korea isn't just a push-around country. They will push back, capturing this major city. And the Mongols are mainly focusing on Korea, as Korea's weaker, so they can just knock them out first. So the Mongols will push down and get to South Korea modernly. And the Mongols in Japan will invade. They make a naval landing in the south, capturing this major city. And with this, the Koreans are unable to cope with a two-front war. The south starts pushing in, and the north Seoul is captured, the capital of Korea, and eventually Korea surrenders. We see a very interesting event happen. We see the Mongols annexing Korea into their empire. Why are they doing this? They want to show off to China, and they want China to agree to peace. The Mongols don't want to take any land from China. They just wanted to stop fighting, but the Chinese won't stop fighting. And why? Well, they're actually doing successful now, and they take this major city, siege this major city. So yeah, they also push back over here, but do not invade but they don't invade the Mongols. So yeah, the Chinese will do well until the Mongols send their troops from Korea over to China. When these troops arrive, yeah, it's just a bit too much for the Chinese. Now, other outside countries are looking at this war but aren't doing anything. The Chinese make one last stand against the Mongols, and they actually do very well. And they capture this major city and cut off the Shaodong Peninsula from the rest of the Mongols. Seeing how well the Chinese are doing, see something very, very interesting happen. My vote is very blocked. See this triangle, the Square Alliance joined the war. The Circle Alliance hasn't joined, but Iraq will push out, and with help from some Turkmenistan rebels, are able to capture all this land in the first week. And they will also move out from this major city. Likewise, Pakistan is a strong country, and with Iraqi aid, they're also able to push out. And the Mongols weren't expecting this at all, so they'll have to retreat many soldiers from the front line. And this actually leads to China pushing back, as without all these troops, the Mongols aren't the strongest, so China pushes back and meets up with the border. But over on this peninsula, they're not able to push back the Mongols, and the Mongols actually start pushing back until they run out of many supplies, so they stick to a stalemated war. Anyways, Mongol troops haven't really arrived just yet, so Iraq will have not invade, but they'll have a breathe. They'll just walk in to this territory, and they split out and capture major cities, which is kind of a new war strategy. Over in Pakistan, though, there isn't a lot of major cities here, so they kind of just push in. But Mongol troops arrive, and they kind of just take a shortcut by going through this area. So Pakistan will get invaded from here, and they weren't expecting it. Pakistan is a strong country, but against the Mongols, they're really not much. Likewise, well, not likewise, but Iraq, they weren't expecting the Mongols to pull this much troops out of China. Yeah. The Mongols will start pushing back, and they do it, and they push back very well as they cut off Iraq's peninsula away from the main front line. And after that, Iraq not trying to save this peninsula, it falls to the Mongols. The Mongols will also start an invasion, trying to distract Iraq and try and get them to leave their territory, but Iraq isn't dumb, they know what the Mongols trying to do. So yeah, at this point, China is starting to push back fully out. China starting to push back the Mongols. The Chinese army is fully mobilized and they're able to push the Mongols fully out of their territory, apart from Shaodong. So with this, hello, right, what was that? Let me just find a good invader we pull up. I'll do. With this, China will actually cross the border into the Mongol territory, capturing a ton of major cities, and the Mongols weren't expecting China to push in. Likewise, we see China not really land, but they send some troops in Korea, and these troops are going to aid Korean rebels so they capture all of the south, but the Mongols will start sending troops to the front line now. Anyways, over in Central Asia, the Mongols are having a very easy time. Iraq, they're the third strongest country in the world, but their top general isn't the smartest, so the king is usually having to not do what he says, and the general isn't liking it, so he's kind of just screwing up the Iraqi army on accident, but it leads to the point where the Mongols push Iraq's troops all the way out of their territory, and they meet up with Pakistan. Pakistan, they're not doing well. They first of all get fully pushed out of Mongol territory, and they will be invaded. Pakistan, the people are very nationalistic, so it's kind of hard for the Mongols to get in, but they do capture 2 major cities, and yeah, it's not looking very good for the Square Alliance. The Mongols will continue to take land from Iraq. They take all this. Iraq is how are we losing? However, we see something very interesting happen. I'll go to the alliance layer. I'm going to paint the alliances white if the countries are in the war, so this will take a second. We actually see something very interesting happen. The circle team, not liking the squares up, they lost the grey team to the Mongols and they want their ally back. The circle team will get involved in the war, and this will unite the squares and circles, something that's never really happened before, and also I guess the Chinese, but whatever. First of all, the Mongols kick these guys fully out of Korea. Alright. But we see tons and tons of blue team and Caucasian troops up on the Caucasian Mongol border. And with this, they're able to smash into the Mongol Empire now. And what about Russia? Russia is the Mongols' only ally now. Russia, even though they don't like what's happening to the Mongols, they also know that if they join this war, they have a lot of instability problems, like in Finland, the Baltics, Ukraine, so if they join this war, they'd probably collapse, and Russia kind of thinks that the Mongols are going to lose this war, and yeah, Russia is still supplying the Mongols, but they're just not getting involved, and the Mongols are very mad. The Mongols are very mad. Anyways, blue team and Caucasian troops that are the most skilled in the whole country can capture the grey team's capital, or former capital, and they're able to go very far into the Mongols. Likewise, we see yellow team troops actually move into Pakistan and Iraq, and with these fresh yellow team troops, they allow both countries will start pushing back the Mongols now. Iraq isn't able to push the Mongols back fully out of their country or far, because the Mongols they want this front line. And they're drawing up a new plan of taking the whole Caspian Sea and hopefully knocking these guys out of the war. So we can look at that plan. Mongol troops will take, Tehran, and will meet the Caucasian border. Caucasia will actually help Iraq and were able to push back, capturing Tehran maybe like a month after the Mongols captured it, and that was a big stinky fail. Anyways, with this fail, I almost said Iraq, Caucasia is able to meet up with these lakes and capture this major city, which is very important as it is one of the major cities in Central Asia for the Mongols. Now the Mongols aren't useless. They're the strongest country in the world, so they will push the Caucasians back, capturing all of these major cities. And yeah, looks like things are going up for the Mongols as they push these guys all the way back to here. But we actually see something very interesting. In Central Asia, the Chinese will start pushing back the Mongols. They push the Mongols fully out of their country and will start a giant invasion. Pretty much everyone in their country supporting the war, so they're able to do this. And they're able to capture a ton of major cities. Now, they capture all these, and this is a new war strategy as the Chinese get ever closer to the Mongol capital, which I don't know what city that is. They capture all these cities here, and the Mongols weren't expecting this. They also fully cut Korea off from the empire, which will lead to a Korean rebellion. Now, the Mongols kind of seeing that there isn't a lot of troops between cities. The Mongols will cut these guys off from the main front line, and it was actually pretty easy to, and eventually these troops will be killed or will surrender and become prisoners of war. But that wasn't really the Chinese's main plan. They wanted that to be a distraction. The main plan of China is to start a ginormous invasion of the Mongols. This is the biggest invasion in world history, and the Chinese are doing it, so go China, I guess. Yeah, I can see better now. Anyways, Chinese will get ever closer to this major city, which the Mongols are trying to protect with everything they've got, because if they take that city, they can really just get to the capital. So yeah. Over in Japan, we see China make a landing, and then this is very brutal. There's a lot of Mongol troops in Japan, so the bloodiest campaign in world history will begin, and it's in Japan. As the further the Chinese get into Japan, the more bloodier it gets. But the Chinese realise if they want to win the war, they need to get Japan. Yeah, the Mongols are able to stalemate the Chinese zone. Over in Central Asia, Iraq will start pushing back the Mongols, as the Mongols have really had to pull a lot of troops back, make a landing in their exclave, and yeah. So the Mongols are pushed back, not fully out of Iraq, but they're pushed almost fully out. But we see the Mongols starting to push back Caucasia as, I don't know why they're just doing, they take this major city here before sieging this one. So, land is looking good for the Mongols. Well, not in East Asia, but in Central Asia. It's looking good. Anyways, in East Asia, Mongols will send their very secretive troops to the Chinese front line. And what are these secretive troops? Well, they're Mongol archers, but with a ton of stuff helping them. They have a ton of armor that arrows can't pierce. They have a lot of weapons and have been training pretty much since birth to be a special unit. So the Mongols send them to the Chinese front, and these guys are able to push the Chinese back tremendously. They even link up with the Chinese border. There's about 10,000 of these special troops, so yeah, they're able to do a ton of damage. Even in Korea, they're able to go into the peninsula and just snake down the coast. for capturing the capital of Korea. Yeah. They're even able to land in Japan and just, yeah. And the special troops will not stop. They want fame for themselves, so they cross into China. So, yeah. These guys are also very smart. They know what to do. Yeah, China. Just probably watch out. They even link up with the Black Team's border. But China will send its own special troops to the front line, and these special troops are on par with Mongol special troops. Eventually, a big battle here will take place, which is very cool. It's a very cool battle, but in the end, China will win the battle and will capture these major cities. So yeah, and that was actually a lot of Mongol special troops. They kind of just destroyed. Yes. The Mongols will send more and more troops to the front line, including Mongol archers. So yeah, now, China isn't useless though. They will put a good wall of defences on their border. So, yeah. But we see some very bad things happen for the Mongols. We see rebellions take place in the Mongol Empire. And there is a lot of rebellions because the Mongols have taken over a lot of countries. We see a Korean rebellion, a Japanese rebellion, an Orange Team rebellion, and to Central Asia, a Turkmenistan and Grey Team rebellion which actually help each other. And finally we see the Union country rebel away from the Mongols. Now, these are a lot of rebellions and the Mongols weren't expecting this. So over to Asia, these are the strongest rebellions because they have Chinese aid. And the Mongols weren't expecting any rebellion, so they're able to push in. The Korean and Orange Team rebellion link up and all of Japan is under the control of, the Blue Team. And yeah. Eventually all of these Siberian lands just kind of fall over because no one in the Siberian lands wants to fight and they're not even pro-Mongol, so they just agree to surrender the town over and give soldiers to the rebellions. I real quickly want to say the year that this is taking place. The year is currently 1492, and this war has been ongoing for 6 years. So yeah, it's a very long war. Moving Central Asia, the Mongols weren't expecting this, and this Union country does a lot of work in capturing all of their own land and getting into core Mongol territory. So yeah, they also split off the Mongols from the rest of Central Asia. And with this, it's kind of just game over for the Mongols. The Turkmenistan and Grey Team rebellions able to take all this land and meet up with the Union country rebellion, and Iraq was able to push these guys fully out of their territory and out of Pakistan territory too. And Mongolia is kind of collapsing at this point. See, Iraqi troops move through this unclaimed Central Asian land and they start invading the Mongols over here, which Mongols weren't expecting at all. So yeah, China will push these guys fully out of their territory and will start a giant invasion of the Mongols from all of their borders, if I can get the right colour. Oh yeah, China is kind of just flexing at this point of how strong they are. So yeah, and finally, the rebellions will take a lot of land. They take this major city, which was very important for the Mongols. And yeah, they will eventually just do China's worst strategy of sparking out and taking major cities after major cities. And all this land falls to the rebellions. And yeah, the Mongols aren't doing well. They will do one last attempt to push these guys back. They mainly focus on the East Asian rebellions, and they're able to do very well taking this land. They also push Iraq fully out of their territory, but for some weird reason they don't go into unclaimed territories, get the Iraqi troops that are just camping outside Mongol territory, so yeah, that'll come back to bite them. They also link up with both these lakes, and as it looks like the Mongols are going to push these guys almost fully out, we see something happen. Yeah, Iraq's troops just invade. Now, it's weird that the Mongols didn't chase these guys down, and yeah, This time they're stronger and better than before, and they will start marching up to the capital of the Mongols. They take this major city before the siege of the capital occurs. With this, Mongol troops are pumped to the capital, and this leads to the rebellions to take all of this land here, which is a ton of land. Also take Lake Baikal. But these Mongol troops don't even make it to the capital. They're all gunned down. I don't know why I said Mongol archers. These are guns now, but they're not good. Anyways, the Mongols will, a lot of their troops are caused gunned down, and rebellion forces move into core Mongol land. And with the Mongols just not having enough troops, the capital falls, and the Mongols surrender. And the Mongols have lost this ginormous war. And they probably shouldn't have declared war on China, because they've lost. And this is a pretty bad loss, like you're not recovering from this. But anyways, we can look at this peace treaty. So in this treaty, we see the Mongols are just destroyed. They lose a ton of land. The Grey Team, Turkmenistan and the Union, Orange Team and Japan are all spit out. Over to the Central Asian countries. It's actually interesting. Iraq and Caucasian countries both keep their lands they got from the Great and Turkmenistan team. Like Caucasia keeps this little Grey Team land here, and Iraq keeps its Turkmenistan land. In return, both countries expand. And Turkmenistan expands, gaining an exclave, and the Grey Team gets this land here. Union countries back. Orange and Japan countries are back. China actually took a crap ton of land. They took a ton. And over to Korea, it actually didn't take much. They only took this coastal land which China claims over. Why did Korea not take a lot? They pretty much caused the Mongols to collapse because they arguably caused the largest rebellion and strongest rebellion in history. So why don't they get a lot? I don't know. China don't want them to. The Orange Team is back, they get land. Japan's back, but it's a different colour. So yeah. And over to the Mongols, they have to spit out 3 countries. This blue one here, which doesn't have any major cities. This dark grey one here. And the white team here. And that's why I know these guys as new capitals. Because Turkmenistan and the Grey Team will both get their capitals back. Turkmenistan's capital is very close to the border of Iraq, and speaking of these countries, they will both go back to the square and circular alliances. The Union country will get its old capital back, and the same with the Japan and Orange Teams. I actually don't remember where Japan's capital is. I think it's there. The Grey Team's capital is there, I think. Yeah, they both get their capitals back. And now we can throw in the capitals of the new countries. So, this dark blue country has no major cities, so I'm going to plot them a major city down. It'd probably be something like there. Oh yeah, and Pakistan gained land. And yeah, this white country's capital is actually going to be right over here, as it's closer to China and closer to the sea. And this country's capital will be along Lake Baikal over here. So yeah, the Mongols still exist. They have a lot of their most important land. So I mean, they're destroyed by this war, but at least they have their core land. So yeah, the Mongols, they're just the Mongols. Anyways, one last event of today's episode. We go to the Americas. Now, I think pretty much every European country was like not involved, but just watching the Mongol War happen. Galicia, whatever. Will actually explore a lot of what's that Mongol land now? They explore a lot of the Americas, and they will actually take a very large colony, and they're able to get away with this because no one was really paying attention to the Americas because I was all just watching this war happen. So Galicia is able to take all this land here. I'm gonna have to fix the borders. These are some terrible borders, but yeah. That will do it for today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over. Really hope you've enjoyed it, and bye everyone.